Welcome back to Studio 701.
And we're really excited to get to speak now with someone who's helped speak out about addiction in North Dakota.
First Lady of North Dakota Kathryn Burgum is joining us now. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on your show today to promote this really important event. Really grateful for that.
Now, you took the stage at Recovery Reinvented for the first time back in 2017, and its impact has been huge for erasing the stigma often associated with addiction. Now, in its fourth year, Recovery Reinvented may look different, but the intent behind it is more important than ever. In a year of canceled events due to COVID, how important was it for you to offer a virtual event?
Well, it's super important. Now more than ever, we need to, have an opportunity for people to learn more about resources that are available virtually, to learn more about, how the intersection of mental illness and addiction, and to hear from people that are experts on these topics. And then, and it's so important, that we do this, that, this event, Recovery Reinvented, will be free. And thanks to the generous sponsors that we have. And so, people just need to go to recoveryreinvented.com to register, and it will be on October 28th.
And Ms. First Lady, I just want to say it's an honor to have an opportunity to interview this morning. What is your message of hope to those struggling with addiction and relapse?
Well, my message is reach out for help. With these virtual opportunities now, it's, easier than ever to actually be able to find services virtually. Even in North Dakota, we've created something called Project Renew, which is an opportunity to connect with Lutheran Social Services to talk to somebody and help that you can get help learning more about where you can find resources. We also have Recovery Talk, which is a phone line that's available, and it's offered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is answered by peer support specialists. And those are people that have lived experience with the disease of addiction. And so, it's more important than ever. And what I say is that there is hope for recovery. And one thing about this pandemic is that people are so isolated. And, the disease of addiction and mental illness both have stigma that is isolating as well. So it's just really important to reach out and ask for help, especially at this time. I know people that have relapsed. I'm working with a lot of people that are struggling right now. So I'm so grateful the governor and I have this opportunity to create, to host Recovery Reinvented and have incredible speakers join us.
Yeah, mentioning those speakers, some really big names this year. Who are you most excited for attendees to get to hear?
Well, I'm always super grateful that people, are willing to give us their time and their expertise. But I'm really excited about Dr. Drew. I've gotten to know him over the last few years. After he came to North Dakota and spoke at the Behavioral Health Conference, he's an addiction medicine specialist. He's very passionate about helping people with the disease of addiction, and he also really understands the intersection between mental illness and addiction. And so he's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about, people who are struggling and what to do in this time of the pandemic. He'll also talk about, how to eliminate stigma and the shame around that. And then we also have David Sheff, who wrote the book, The Beautiful Boy, that was turned into a movie, and it's about his journey and struggle with his son who struggled with addiction as a young person who now has 10 years of recovery. We're also going to have a guy named Dr. DeLisi who's with Hazel and Betty Ford, and he actually is going to focus on ACEs, which is called, it stands for Acute Childhood Experiences. And this is a test that people take later in life, which helps determine what kind of treatment they need. But it's based on trauma that occurred to them in their childhood. So I'm excited to bring that topic to the conversation as well. And then we'll have a lot of other incredible people talking. We're going to have this very cool company called Solid Comfort. They are going to talk about recovery support at work. They have an initiative called Recovery Solid Start. And 75% of the people that work there have addiction or have been incarcerated, and they've got an incredible program. We're grateful to share that with everyone. I was able to share that story in the White House a month ago when I met with the Surgeon General and First Lady Melania and the director of ONDCP to talk about building recovery support at work.
Fantastic stuff. Wonderful to hear all of the great speakers that are being offered and our North Dakota businesses offering interesting things like that. Thank you so much for your time. We'd like to mention once again the Recovery Reinvented online experience is happening October 28th from 9 to 4 p.m. It is free, as First Lady Kathryn Burgum just mentioned, and open to the public. For more information, you can go to recoveryreinvented.com. Thank you so much.
And coming up next, there are a lot of tricks and treats to being a parent.
There sure are. What you should know before